Where else to start but at the North Pole? Not just where Santa hangs his coat, the North Pole is the axis of rotation point for the Earth. Both the North and the South Poles actually have two poles, geographic and magnetic poles. The geographic poles, which we're not really talking about in this instance, they're mostly fixed in their position. Plate tectonics, they have a way of shifting even the most stable things like the geographic North and South Poles around, but mostly they stay where they are. The magnetic North Pole though, now that is the point where all of our compasses point towards, and it's always on the move. When the magnetic North Pole was first measured in 1831 in northern Canada, and up until about the year 2000, it moved only about 9 kilometers per year on average. After then, things got a lot faster. The movement of the North Pole has accelerated up to 55 kilometers per year, from 9 kilometers a year to 55 kilometers per year. And while the pole used to change direction a fair bit, it would go down a bit, left a bit, right a bit, up a bit. In the 21st century, the North Pole, it has just been booking it over toward Siberia, the northern coast of Russia. The Institute of Petroleum Geology and Geophysics, in the Siberian branch of the Russian Academy of Sciences, released a statement in September that pretty gleefully, well, for Russian physicists anyway, declared that a new special magnetic observatory is being set up at a research station on Samolyov Island. The place where it's being set up is actually the largest delta in the Arctic, so it's been an environmental research base since about 2005. Now, why? Why has the North Pole forsaken the maple syrup of Canada for the vodka of Russia? Well, according to the European Space Mission, over the last 2 decades, the position of the North Magnetic Pole has been largely determined by 2 large-scale lobes of negative magnetic flux on the core mantle boundary under Canada and Siberia. Large-scale lobes of magnetic flux. We're talking about blobs. Molten iron blobs. A nice big molten blob of iron that made the North Pole sit nicely quite still in Canada, decided in about the year 2000 to reinvent itself, stretching itself so thinly that eventually half of the blob split off. This divorce of planetary proportions ended with one half moving to Russia to get away from the Canadian blob. With one blob under Siberia and one blob still under Canada, they had to play the game of who do you love more with the North Pole. Sorry, Canada. The North Pole loves Siberia right now and is heading there as quickly as it can. Maybe get a switch or something? The movement has been so fast and so unexpectedly fast that British and US geological surveys are having to update their recording methods to keep up. There's no point measuring the position of the North Pole once a year, when the North Pole could have moved to Florida within 6 months to live with its cool aunt. The current predictions are that the North Pole will continue to move towards Siberia, but at this point predictions they're really just educated guesses, and once it reaches Siberia, will it stay there? Honestly, no one knows. And what impact will this have on us? Well, seeing as so much of navigation relies on compasses and other magnetic components to point accurately towards north or any other direction, and north is moving at a very rapid pace, we should all get used to seeing north as more of a fluid concept and not relying on compasses as a 100% accurate navigational tool. Alright, well, this marks my first attempt at a longer form news update from the Arctic beyond. I've envisioned a future with a mix of shorter text updates and longer form videos like this. But please, any feedback will always be welcome. Let me know what kind of Arctic topics you'd be interested in hearing about in the future, and do consider sharing this with any family counsellors who can help the North Pole through this difficult time.